it's very likely that consciousness is having a great time here. That this is a great game for consciousness. That is our perception as human beings, with attachments and likes and dislikes and so on, that are creating this question, why God creates. What about the destruction of nature and children starving? Yeah, we have a point of view that unfortunately is limited, and that's why we judge these things as evil or bad. Like, for example, even if you don't go too far up in the tree of life, just to this center, which is called superconsciousness, or the center is called the soul level. At the soul level, when you study the subject, you realize that, hey, as it's in the Bible, in the house of my Father there are many mansions. It means there are many levels of development. The souls in the astral have different levels of development. Some of them are very advanced, some of them are just beginning the process of reincarnation. So their astral bodies are still very ineffective and their programs are very basic. So now they begin to incarnate. They need very basic lessons, and they need physical worlds to incarnate where they will deal with very basic issues. And here we have Earth, which is a perfect school for young souls. So we have 85% of the souls that incarnate in this planet so far are very young. First level. Why? Because we encounter here the type of experiences that will be appropriate for a soul that is beginning in the process of incarnation. And I can tell you that I worked for 15 years as a psychotherapist in these clinics here in Los Angeles, working with people that were souls that you could see very clearly that they were very basic, pure and nice souls, but dealing with very, very simple issues. Like, for example, learning to do not hit their partner, domestic violence, learning to do not abuse their bodies with crack. So they were learning very basic things. The danger of participating in a gang. So young souls that were dealing with simple basic issues. 85% of the population in the world is at that level. So we need a world that offers this type of tests, that offers the possibility of doing domestic violence, so that you can learn that that behavior is not good for your partner, neither for you, because the next incarnation around, you are the woman and he is the man that beats her. So when you look at this from an evolutionary perspective, you see that the evil here in this world, the negative side of this world, is not necessarily wrong. That the greed and the fear and the abuse that is happening here is because this 85% needs to learn to stop being a victim. And they are being victimized by all these forces. And the only way that they will stop being victimized is because they will take a stand and they will do their work, and then they will move from victim to the metaphysical level or the victor state by reinforcing the I, reinforcing the ego, and not allowing other people to take advantage of them. So you are not at that point. You are trying to dissolve the ego already, right? But 85% of the population here is trying to build a healthy ego. They have an ego that is not capable of setting limits. They have an ego that is not capable of thinking straight. They have an ego that is totally controlled by emotions. And they need to develop an ego that is healthier. And that may take incarnations and incarnations. Now, if you are in a position where today, most likely, you have already gone through those things, perhaps early in your life or in previous incarnations. And now you would love to be in a planet that is much more advanced, doesn't abuse the environment, doesn't abuse human beings. And we would love to live in a world like that, right? But this world is not here perhaps for you or me, except in certain respects, but it's for the majority. And worlds like that, there are plenty in other places of the universe. This is not the only world. There are plenty of other worlds like that, and we can go to them. We came here because there are some issues that we need to deal with here. In an environment that has a lot of contrast, there is a lot of suffering. And I have seen through the years that most of the people that come to our courses, they are idealist types. In the Myers-Briggs system, they belong to a particular typology called the idealists, same as myself at the personal level. The idealists, we tend to be idealists. We like an ideal world. We like, justice, harmony, and good relationships and respect to the environment, beautiful values. But let us not lose the widest perspective, where evil or the negative aspect of life, so to speak, plays a role as a teacher. It is our teacher, has been our teacher all along, and in this planet will continue being the teacher for hopefully many, many generations of souls that need training here. There are other planets.
So it's hard to be thinking of babies being abused sexually, being tortured, and saying, yes, there is a...
Right. But you don't know what that baby did to another baby before, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is that I saw the same in domestic violence. You see this woman that comes to you and she's in pain, she's being abused, and you say, well, this is horrendous. How this man is treating her in this way, horrific, right? But what you don't know is that that woman and that man, those two souls are playing this dance for quite a long time. And they are choosing a place like Mexico or some other South American countries where society will create the perfect environment so that this can surface, right? And they will play the role of the victim, and then the next time around they will play the role of the abuser. Mm-hmm. So we tend to lose the big picture. That's the problem. I'm all in favor of doing whatever we can in our capacity to improve the circumstances in a planet like this. Mm-hmm. And whatever you can do, do it. Whatever I can do, I do it. Mm-hmm. But there's so much suffering here, so there's so much to do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, let us not lose the big picture, because otherwise we will become very bitter. Mm-hmm. How can, the president not have transparency? He promised transparency, but I don't see any transparency here. Yes, that's true. But this is what we get in a planet like this. So when we move one step up and we look at who is the doer here, who is doing all this? Is Obama, the president, the congressman? These people don't exist. They are fantasies, fictitious beings. So consciousness is totally in control. It's controlling the whole thing. So at least we can go there from a non-duality perspective and we can say, okay, wait a second. Yes, this is happening. It is obnoxious, but I can feel better by stepping up and thinking, who is the real doer here? I do all these things, it says in the Bible. God talking. I do all these things. And it names, quite a few negative things. These things are here for training for souls that need this training. Once we don't need it, we will go to a better place. And there are plenty out there.
And even that concept is something that's debatable. Why not be another way?
Why not be what?
Why not having it another way? I mean,
why could not be in a different way?
to start at zero and to go zero.
Yes. Why the evolution?
Yeah.
Right. Why the evolution? The only answer I have found to that is comes from research that has been done with individuals in deep hypnosis, and is that nobody's forced to incarnate. So that you can choose to incarnate for evolutionary reasons, but you are never forced. When you become separated from spirit in the astral world, which doesn't happen here, it happens there apparently, you can choose other ways to do this. Now, from the perspective of the soul, coming here and play a role, and they know exactly what's going to happen because they see beforehand, they see what they are going to go through, and they choose the experiences carefully, they sign contracts, so to speak, and for the soul, knowing its immortality, knowing that it's going to be just for some time, is not so horrendous as it is for us, human beings, and our little perspective. That's why it's so important to look at this from a wider angle. And I'm not saying that the smaller perspective, which is trying to repair and do good and help with positive causes and create awareness, there's anything wrong with that. No, there is a place for that too. And it's a beautiful place. But at the same time, let's keep our heart clean by not forgetting the wider perspective. Because otherwise we can become very bitter. And I have seen many idealist friends and students becoming very bitter about what's going on here. And that only increases the suffering because we lose the wide-angle perspective.
Where did you get the statistic that you kept using 85% are young souls?
Yeah, this is based on studies that were done in hypnosis. And then the hypnotherapist that researched this type of things wanted to know from his subjects information about the astral world and information about the present situation on Earth. And one of the things that I remember is this, that everything that the soul goes through here is accepted beforehand, and that you are never forced to come here. You come voluntarily. It makes sense, right? Now, this issue of the astral world is non-dual teachers usually will stay away from it.
Right.
The reason is that it's not part of the present moment experience. But in this course in spiritual psychology, I devote a couple of classes to this subject. And we study quite a few interesting things because the soul level is very valuable to do counseling. It gives you to do counseling. It gives you a perspective that is very healthy and useful in counseling. And second, because I don't think that the soul level or the existence of the soul is negated with non-duality. It isn't. It's just that we need to understand that the soul is also a fake identity. It's also a false identity. So the idea is not to become so distracted into the soul and the astrals and from what we really came here to do. One of the main things that we came to do is to discover who we are really. And who we are really is not a soul. So if we become content with, oh, I discovered that I am a soul. Now I had my near-death experience and I was floating. Look at me and I have this body of light. And again, you are falling into the trap of identification now with an astral body. So obviously, non-dual teachers stay away from this subject because it's too fascinating, enticing, and leads to another identification. But I don't think it's necessary to deny the existence of the astral realms and to deny what is going to happen after a death. I don't think it's necessary because only if you have clarity about what I'm saying. The soul is trying to figure out its true identity, same as the human being, beyond any identification. So when we come here, the suffering is so intense that we become really interested in this subject of who am I really and how I can overcome suffering. Let us say in the astral world, what is happening there? Life is beautiful, lots of music, light, friends, love is fantastic, right? Great vacation, and then why doing any work? Yeah, why finding who am I? Who cares? I stay the way I am. But for some reason, the soul does want to grow and does want to find the truth about itself. So we begin to incarnate. Because here, with this contrast or suffering, we become interested in the subject. What am I really? And then we begin to investigate. How can I get rid of suffering? Questions from the internet. So all this soul illusion is happening for the entertainment of consciousness? I would say so. That is a great entertainment and more beautiful than the physical, of course, less painful. Another question here is, how can most be enlightened? I would say that it's not everybody can wake up. There has to be a readiness. The Buddhists will tell you every sentient being is awakened. That's a paradox, right? How every sentient being is awakened. Every sentient being is empty, so every sentient being is awakened. Yeah, it's a paradox. What they are saying is every sentient being is essentially consciousness. Consciousness is perceiving through that sentient being. So there is no difference between an awakened being and a non-awakened being. There is no difference whatsoever. In essence, there is no difference. If today you wake up and then you look backwards and you say, oh, yeah, I was the same consciousness, now I am the same consciousness. So essentially, I have always been consciousness, all along.
But you didn't know it before.
Who didn't know it? See, if you say, now I know, you recreate the I. That's why this old, I think it's a Native American saying that knowing divides and wisdom makes everything whole. So the minute you say I know, you divide it. Right? Because knowing requires an object to be known. A concept, an idea, and a knower, and the process of knowing. So evidently, every time we open the mouth to say I know, or now I know, that's it. You recreated duality right there. Yes.
What did Buddha mean when he said, I am awakened?
I don't think that he ever said that. You see, the minute you say I am awakened, you are creating an I.
It's
Yeah.
like saying I am humble.
I am humble, right.
You can't do it.
Well,
Right.
and Jesus, on the other hand, said, I am that I am.
Yes, he said I am that I am, so
Right.
that basically he didn't want to define himself. That's what he's trying to do. I am that I am. I'm not going to define myself. The minute you define yourself, you created separation. If you say I am awakening, you define yourself. And you created ego. Every time we define ourselves, even in the most sublime way, we created separation. And we created ego. And this is one of the things that I love in the course is to talk about the spiritual ego. Because the spiritual ego is quite something, and I have known a lot of spiritual egos through my life, including this one. So I can tell you that the spiritual ego is nasty. When we enter the spiritual path, we have this material ego, materialistic ego. It's like the head of a serpent. So we go into a spiritual path and we cut the head of the serpent and we grow another. Now we grow the head of the spiritual ego. Let me tell you some ideas about the spiritual ego. I am a devotee, I am a seeker, I am a Buddhist, or I am a Christian, I am a seeker of the truth, or I am a seeker of God, I am God, you name it. I am a student of the truth, I am a monk, I am a brahmachari, I am a swami. All these definitions, they are ego-based. They create an ego structure. Now, we could say that the spiritual ego is more subtle than the materialistic ego. Yes, I grant that. But that's all that I can grant. It's as nasty as the other one. The spiritual path can reinforce the ego, but now the ego will grow a head that is different, but still stubborn and many times fanatic, and we don't see it until the end. When you finally break through into the awakened state, and then you begin to see this monster. You are not aware of it, but then you cut the head of that monster and you create another one, the awakened ego. So the whole thing of the ego is quite fantastic. It goes on getting thinner, but don't dream that it's going to disappear overnight. If you meet somebody that tells you that they have no ego, I would say look for another teacher, because that guy is deceiving himself. Even after awakening, you see through the ego, but you still have to work. Still there's work to do. It's much easier, I would say. It's more like a keep on surrendering, allowing consciousness to do the job now, because you realize that you cannot do the job to begin with, right? Because you don't exist.
So it will help in real life issues. Like,
Let's say that realistically you need more money. In the ego state, you will say, okay, I have to produce more money. In the awakened state, perhaps you will create an intention and you will say, well, how can I do a better job at what I do? And at the same time, you will create an intention, I would like to have a better income. Leave that prayer or intention, vibrate, and that's it. But you will not go into creating visualizations about how the money is coming to you in a track. These type of metaphysical techniques are no longer useful.
how about having aims or goals? Is that kind of result too?
Yes, if you have aims and goals, you honor them, maintain them, and you also refine them, but at the same time, you surrender them, so that you have a goal, and this is typical of the marketplace path. You have a goal and you surrender the expectation that is underneath the goal, so that you move towards your goal with more freedom. If it happens, wonderful. If it doesn't happen, this is not my world, and this is not my body. This body has no owner, and you begin to realize that it has no owner really. Survival of the body from a non-duality perspective and after awakening becomes more and more clear that it's not your business. The survival of the body is consciousness business. As long as consciousness wants to keep this body, to perceive through and to act through the body, it will keep it no matter what. Money will come so that you can survive. You move towards greater detachment.
So you found in your experience that more intuition comes dealing with real life issues?
Yes, more intuition, absolutely, because you are more connected. Now there is not this heavy I or ego interfering in your connection with the divine. The divine is functioning more freely through you. It's like what could be called, I don't like the word, but perfect action. Perfect action is the one that springs from consciousness itself. It's not filtered by programming, it just springs from consciousness. So it comes from intuition practically, directly. So we see this in individuals that have a particular talent in life. For example, great sportmen or women. If you listen to Alan Watts, great speakers, Eckhart Tolle. These individuals, they have a great connection in that particular action. Some business people, they know exactly what to do in order to succeed in business.
But they say that this kind of talent is acquired. It's not just natural talent, because this is what they teach a lot of business people, all this motivational seminars, what they lie on. But they say that a lot of times, they've been very modest people, they've been very shy, and they just by practicing, they became like that.
Yes, yes. I would say that yes and no. Like, for example, now I have a student in the course in life coaching that he is a celebrity in dancing. And he was telling me, I was a born athlete. A born athlete. It was from the beginning. He was able to be the first in athleticism practically all his life, at school, everywhere. So he had that already. So it was kind of born with him. Now you could say maybe he cultivated this skill through previous lifetimes. Yes, it's possible. But I could also theorize that certain souls, from the moment they are separated from spirit, they already have a gift there in potential. And they will later manifest that gift more and more and more until they will begin to, as the research is showing, get training into that particular line of work. Let's say healers. At some point, a soul that has this gift will begin to get training as a healer and then incarnate, play the role of a healer, go back, get training in the astral from his teachers, which are also healers, come back to Earth, play another role as a healer, go back, and so on. And in the process, they will have the challenge to reconnect with their vocation here, because we tend to lose connection. But I would say that the certain souls have already an imprint of a particular vocation, and this is consistent with the research that has been done in soul psychology. Let me look here. I like this. Too many complications with nothing. Just a moment, please. So consciousness needs me to experience itself. Consciousness is using your body to experience creations through your body. The self that you are talking about there doesn't exist as a true being, except as programs. So it's not that consciousness is using you. Consciousness is using the mind-body organism to experience life through it. The self is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Then if the four lobes are nutritionally balanced, is it easier to stay awakened? If the four lobes are imbalanced, meaning that the neurotransmitters that control the four lobes are in a state of imbalance, then what happens is that the mind tends to experience abnormalities. Abnormalities that can be, for example, compulsive thoughts, obsessive thoughts, negative thoughts, depressive thoughts, anxious thoughts, and so on. That has been proven scientifically. So it's a good idea to heal the mind. And to heal the mind, you can use nutrition, target the different neurotransmitter pathways to heal the mind through healing the brain. So the problem is that although this is happening in the mind, and you're not the mind, and now you wake up and you realize, I'm not the mind, I am consciousness, I am that which sees the mind, I am the awareness that perceives the mind, and that still will not solve the neurotransmitter issues completely, perhaps. Let us say that you need 60 grams of protein per day to produce all the neurotransmitters that you need, because neurotransmitters are produced through the amino acids. And then you are taking only 15. Well, you have a big deficit there, right? So if you rest as consciousness most of the day, you will be more relaxed, the mind will need less chemicals, still the mind will function better. But if you need to work, then you won't be able to do your work. The type of job that I do is brain intensive. A lot of work to do with the computer, and not only with my clients and students. So it's brain intensive. I require a lot of neurotransmitters. So yes, I could step back, rest as awareness, but I could not do the job, right? Which would create a lot of problems. So I better take my supplements and feed the brain correctly and take care of the mind. And same with the body. Even if you are awakened, you want to keep the body in good conditions. What is the fun of being awakened, but at the same time being in a body that is full of problems? As long as you can, you fix the problems in the body also. So I would say that awakening does not preclude being practical. It's not that you wake up and then you have transcended everything. No, still you need to go to the bathroom. Still you need to eat. Still you need to take a shower. But even these practical things become easier. You are guided into how to do them in a more efficient way.
Does awakening preclude any certain diet?
Awakening precludes a certain diet? Well, I used to believe that, that the vegetarian diet was the diet for more enlightened people. And I became very sick as a result, physically and mentally. Then I let go of the vegetarian diet and I'm in much better health. So it depends on your genes, it depends on the type of body that you get, the type of brain that you get really plays a big role. And so I would say that no, the best diet is the diet that fits your body, the type of body and brain that you got.
That's amazing. Why do we have to eat meat? Why do we have to kill animals to eat meat for our bodies? It's nothing.
It's in this planet only, not in every planet. Here is that way. It's what it is. It's this is not a perfect world.
Right.
It's very imperfect. And the question would be, is this imperfection wrong?
Yeah.
So is the imperfection wrong? And when we look into that question, we see that we could find many arguments to prove that it is not necessarily wrong. And that, as I explained, there are probably other places in the universe where the souls that are there are getting a different training and life circumstances are much, much better. And there is no need to kill animals. It's a great paradox. I have learned doing this work that the people that are the most spiritual, which are the acetylcholine types that have their energy here at the top in the parietal lobe of the brain, have brains that require meat. The idealist types that they hate to kill animals, that are usually acetylcholine types, and when they don't eat meat, they get sick, they get ADD, they cannot meditate, and they don't understand what the hell is going on. So again, that talks volumes about the importance of not losing the big picture here. Nisargadatta Maharaj was a great sage. He was eating meat, smoking cigarettes, chain smoker so far, and still he lived to 85 years of age. He was enlightened. Read his book, I Am That, you will see. Yes, you have a question.
You said separate soul from the spirit. Separate soul from the spirit.
I separate soul from spirit, yes.
You said that. Can you explain a little bit for me?
Sure.
Because
It's a good question. When you die, you see beings of light coming to you. The light that you see is their astral body. It's made of astral light. And that is what we call a soul. What you are seeing there is a vehicle for awareness. made of astral light. It's a bundle of light, and is the astral body. What is seen through that body is consciousness itself, is awareness. So, but awareness is not a substance. The astral light is a substance, subtle but a substance. So, a good definition of soul is awareness perceiving through an astral body. And awareness is a spirit, the soul is a spirit seeing through an astral body. Is it more clear now? I know that some traditions use interchangeably the word soul and spirit. I would say that for the sake of clarity, I would not define these things in this way. So I would not create that confusion, calling soul and spirit the same. The soul is a spirit seeing through an astral body.
When you use the term astral body, you're just talking about anything that's non-physical. You're not talking
Yeah.
about higher levels, causal body.
Yeah, I'm talking about the astral matter or energy or light when I say astral. But yes, there seems to be an even more subtle body, which is the body of thoughts, that are more at the blueprint of the astral body and the human body. And that would be called the causal world.
Right.
And as Sri Yukteswar talks about in the autobiography of a yogi. And again, if we were able to access the causal body and the causal world, still that would be a causal being, would be awareness perceiving through a causal body. And still the essence of that being would be undifferentiated awareness, an awareness that doesn't have name. Same as now, each one of you here in this room and all of you online, the essence of all of you is undifferentiated awareness, undefined awareness. Nobody can define awareness because it doesn't make any sense to define it or to give it a name. So it's totally undifferentiated. Most of what I teach in the course in regard to the astral body is based on the research that has been done. One of the first research began with a psychiatrist that wrote this book called Many Sages, Many Masters, or Many Masters, Many Sages, by Brian Weiss. So that triggered, this research in hypnosis. Because hypnosis has been a powerful tool available for psychotherapists and hypnotherapists and psychiatrists. And some of them used it for research. And it does give you access and insight into the astral world. Okay, somebody's saying, so then what is love when I say I love you? Who am I loving? Is love an illusion? I would say that the love that we experience in relationships is usually called human love, and is not unconditional, and is kind of an illusion trying to find unconditional love in our life, because unconditional love can only come from oneness, not from division. As long as there is division, some form of division, any form of division, then love will be tainted somewhat. In the Bhakti Yoga path, there is this effort to love and to learn to love. But in the Jnana Yoga path, or in the path of wisdom or non-duality, there is not so much emphasis in that. Loving others, loving God, or expressing love. It's not that this is not valued, it's that the emphasis is different. The emphasis is in finding what you are really, and as you find what you are really, then you become more loving, more like a more loving being. And eventually you want to realize oneness, and then you don't feel any separation between you and others. And then love is expressed unconditionally. So oneness is not a frequency. If you define love as a feeling, I would tend to agree. But love seems to have a deeper meaning, and which is oneness itself. So oneness is not a frequency. Oneness is a realization. Oneness is not something that you need to produce. Oneness is something that is here already. It's just that the veil of language and names doesn't allow us to perceive it. So in that sense, the ultimate love, which would be oneness, is here already. Not something that you need to create, or even a vibration that you need to create. These type of vibrations, that a feeling of love, same as a feeling of joy or a feeling of bliss, have been called also as the aroma of awareness, meaning that when you rest as awareness, and especially in the way out, or sometimes in the resting itself, you feel these divine feelings. So the emphasis is, in non-duality, the emphasis is on realization of what you are, staying there as much as you can, and then the rest takes care of itself. The heart, the feelings begin to function and operate. The more we distance ourselves from our true self and we move towards the ego, our feelings reflect the human feelings, which are more emotional. Frustration, pride, guilt, blame, shame, anxiety, fear, sadness. So we move into the ego, we experience these feelings. We move towards consciousness, and we begin to experience the divine feelings. So it's up to us. Therefore, the way I see it is more practical, I would say, is do not try to produce the divine feelings. Just move towards your true nature, and these beautiful feelings will be yours. As Ramana Maharshi said, happiness is your true nature. He said it's not wrong to look for happiness, but look for happiness where you can find it. Where you can find it. You can find it in consciousness. So one thing that happens with awakening is that, let's say you're watching a movie, you're watching TV, and you're getting bored. And then the mind says, well, it's boring, you begin to notice boredom now. And then the thought may come, well, what do you expect? You know where happiness is, so you step back, you rest as awareness, and you continue seeing the movie, but now you're resting as awareness, and you get this mist of bliss. And it's coming because you did the right movement, not because you psychologized yourself into experiencing bliss, or change your thoughts, or look for something more exciting than the program that you're watching in the TV. It's just because you recognize the truth that happiness is to be found in your true self, not in the movie that you're watching. So I'm going to answer a last question. We are past the time. Let me choose here one from the internet. Will there be a replay? I have recorded this, at least part of it, in video and also in audio. The audio is complete. The video, the system didn't allow me to go beyond 3 hours. I had to cut it off. But I will do the best I can. I'm not very technique savvy. I have your emails, and I will send you a link to the audio podcast. And if I can also to the video. The person that usually does this type of things is in Europe now. And I want to invite you all to participate in the course. We start the course in 2 weeks from now, which is 2 Wednesdays from now at 7 o'clock. You can come here or you can participate online. And the course curricula or program, you can find it online in our website at brainoptimization.com. But I'm going to email you an invitation so that in that invitation will be a link to this program to make it easier for you. Read the program. I would suggest that you have a look and see if you like it, if it's something that could benefit you. If you feel a resonance with the program and with the content that you will see there, then I would recommend that you consider it. It may change your life deeply. I'm seeing it with my students, and I would say that the material that I present there completely changed my life. So I hope that some of you or many of you come and participate this year in our course in spiritual psychology. The course is called Spiritual Psychology Counseling with emphasis in non-duality. One more question and we can go home.
You said it's 10 weeks?
It's 10 months
Or 10 months?
with classes every other week.
So, if you travel,
If you travel, what I do usually with the classes is we record them. So if a student misses a class, we send them an email with a link and they can listen to the class in a podcast. It has been working very nicely for all our students in the 3 courses that we offer. Because then they are not locked into, I have to come to each and every one of the classes. If they have an emergency or they have to travel, they can skip the class.
and so the price was $500 a month or $250?
The price is $250 per month until the student completes the tuition.
$250 per month?
The classes are every other week. The cost is $250 per month.
Right. And we can do it also one-on-one or just in group?
The one-on-one program is available for those who want to explore that. The program is different. It's not 3 hours classes, it's only 2 hours.
Right.
And the class can be taken online or also through Skype or in person coming here. It's a preference. Some people prefer the one-on-one, others prefer the group. I have seen good results with both, and there's no difference in price. Now, the difficulty with the one-on-one is that sometimes I have the time and sometimes I don't. So it depends. If you really want the individual, then I will have to look into my schedule and see if I can take you one-on-one. Many people here come from Brent's group. Brent did the whole course in the group format, the spiritual psychology counseling, and Brent was doing the other 2 courses with me one-on-one. And the course that he liked the most was the course in the group. Yeah, it's up to you. As long as I have the time, I can take some students one-on-one. And depending how big the group is that is coming here in person, we may do the class here or in our office here on the site. We have a video studio, depending on how many people we have.